Hi, hello, and welcome to episode 63 of Yet Another Expat, the podcast that strives to bring you every week news, stories, thoughts, random facts from a usually tired millennial living in Berlin. I hope you are doing well. I hope that you are not working and getting sunshine and being able to swim. That is very important. I hope that you don't have more than 23 tabs open in your browser and that you're able to close them down one by one very soon. Now, I know we have a few new people joining the podcast, mostly from Berlin. So welcome if you're one of them. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm sorry to disappoint, but this episode doesn't have a lot about Berlin. I left, I took a vacation, and I'm here in Denmark. I did a house swap with an old colleague. So, yeah, this episode is a bit more on Denmark. Everything is so perfect in Denmark. Why is that? I don't know. I don't know if I would love it here or go insane. Because it's just too good. It's one of these movies of a well-timed, functional society. I'm also living outside of Copenhagen in the suburbs, and life here looks so pristine. It's a bubble. The best part is that everyone here speaks English. Everyone speaks English, and they are happy to do so. In Berlin, so many people don't speak English or don't want to speak, but when they do, it feels like they're doing you a favor. But no, here people are nice and kind and helpful. The food is meh, the weather is meh, but everything else is pretty good. And all the Danish mehs don't even come close to the uber-duper huge fail that the German DB, the railway system, is. We had 3 connections to come to Denmark. We are a family with a baby. And let me tell you, every single train was delayed and cancelled. In every part of the journey, we had to take a train that came hours later. And 8 out of 10 elevators in the Berlin Hauptbahnhof, the central train station, were not working. Imagine having big suitcases, a stroller, a crying baby, having to change multiple levels with no elevators. That was fun. As soon as we crossed to the Danish side, everything was magical. And this is one of the big bamboozles you get once you start living in Berlin. You would think that the German trains would be the definition of punctuality. Coming from Greece, I really thought that the German precision is a trait that is exhibited everywhere. But the trains don't work, the elevators don't work, the highways don't work. The only thing that really works is the mailbox. That's the most consistent thing currently in Germany. But I'm not here to talk about all that. I'm not here to whine. Let's just, together, you and me, let's just ground ourselves. How will we do that? It's very simple. We will do this exercise. It takes a few seconds. We will press the tongue together against the roof of our mouth. This is what we will do. Please join me, not forcefully, just enough to feel the connection, okay? Let's now, everyone, the entire audience of this podcast, I invite you to press your tongue against the roof of your mouth. Do it for a bit. Do it and relax. Feel your jaw relax. As your tongue rests at the top of your mouth and pushes there, your jaw kind of also relaxes. It joins the party. And I know it feels weird. It feels weird to push your tongue at the top of your mouth. But your whole mouth becomes more relaxed. And it almost feels like you have your mouth open, but it's not open. It's just a sensation because your tongue is pushing at the top of your mouth. I say this many times because I want you to do it. But this is helpful. It's a very easy way to soothe yourself, to ground yourself. There are many reasons why this works, from body awareness point of view because you're directing your attention inward to a single point in the body. There is some vagus nerve stimulation indirectly. The vagus nerve regulates the parasympathetic system, which is for rest and digest, which isn't a wonderful thing, rest and digest. This should be my goal in life. When they ask me, where do you want to be in 5 years? I want to rest and digest. This is the state. But this tongue posture, and especially if you're still doing it, good for you. If your tongue is pushing the top of your mouth and you start breathing through your nose, which often goes hand in hand, right? This can support your vagal tone. I also feel that it makes my head rest on the top of my tongue. It's a relaxing feeling. Makes a closed loop. Everything is tucked in and supported. But it's a small grounding thing, and it's legit. Some meditations and some Qigong practices describe it as a completing an energy circuit. So there you have it. Now we are grounded. And now that we are grounded, let's talk about South Park. Coming out of the blue. But the South Park latest episode was a blast. It has made a lot of ripple effects online. If it still hasn't caught your eye, then, well, you're listening now and it should. It's a big, big fuck you to Paramount and the system, but I'll get the story straight. I'll let you know what happened. I've been a South Park fan since high school, when the Pirate Bay was my universe and mTorrent was my spinning roulette in the casino. You could get anything from the torrent you wanted, all the way down to computer syphilis. There was also LimeWire, which was the true king of taking bets, but that's a story for another time. But South Park has been in my life for a long, long time, especially when I was a teenager, and I really like how it's coming back at the right time with the right positioning. But here is what has been happening. First of all, Paramount, the huge company, they make movies and films and own a bunch of things. They paid Donald Trump $16 million to settle his lawsuit. So apparently there was a show that Trump filed a lawsuit over. And even though that lawsuit, Trump suing the show, was completely without merit, this is what the company said, it was baseless. It made no sense. They still decided to pay the $16 million settlement to him. Why did they do that? Well, apparently Paramount is joining a merger. A merger is when two companies are merging, surprise, surprise. And those mergers often get looked over by the government to make sure that nothing shady is happening. And Trump was supposedly delaying the merger, and supposedly that $16 million settlement they paid in that lawsuit was to help the company do the merger without problems. So this is fact number one. Paramount pays Donald Trump $16 million and settles the lawsuit Trump did, which was baseless. Then we have Stephen Colbert. He has the late night show. And he basically came out and called out this payment. He called it a big fat bribe on his show. And he criticized Paramount for capitulating to political pressure rather than defending their journalistic integrity, because they chose not to go to court for that piece of news that Trump sued them for. Now, the problem is Stephen Colbert also works for Paramount. A few days later, actually 3 days later, Paramount cancels The Late Show. Now, this is the most successful late night show in 30 years. And 3 days later, Paramount, after the remarks of Colbert, announced that they're canceling the late night show, officially citing financial reasons, despite the show's continued strong ratings and popularity. Trump, does he stay modest? Of course no. He celebrates the outcome and encourages similar actions. He publicly hails the $16 million payout as a victory for himself, claiming on Truth Social that he expects another $20 million in advertising from the future Sky-led direction of Paramount. Skydance is the company that they are merging with. So basically, he has agreed to take money in different ways for allowing this merger, someone might say. And then he explicitly celebrated the cancellation of Colbert's show and called for more comedians who criticize him to be silenced or lose their jobs, including Kimmel and Fallon. So this is the setup. This is what I wanted you to know. Trump sues a news show saying that they didn't portray him in the best way. The studio decides to pay out a settlement of 16 millions because they're having a merger and Trump can block it. Then Stephen Colbert calls that out and says how paying money through these lawsuits is a tactic that Trump is doing. He just sues everyone and then people pay him settlement money so he doesn't bring obstacles. And then Paramount cancels his show for saying that in their own network, and Trump is celebrating that he can get the money and that the show is getting canceled. What happened next is that Paramount signed a deal with the creators of South Park, a $1.5 billion deal in order to create 50 new episodes of South Park that would be on Paramount Plus, their streaming service, and move the existing library content exclusively to the platform. So the two creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they agreed to that, $1.5 billion for a 5-year deal to make 50 episodes, 10 episodes a year. Immediately after they signed the deal, they premiere their first episode titled Sermon on the Mount, and it's a blistering episode. They make fun of Trump himself. They depict Trump with his face in South Park. They use his actual face. While it's a cartoon animation with these cutout characters, they don't use real faces. It's not a realistic show depiction, but Trump has his face speaking like a cartoon, making fun of the settlement he did with Paramount, ridiculing the cancellation of the Colbert Show, mocking Trump for the alleged Epstein cover-up, and even bring down Jesus to say to the residents, do you really want to end up like Colbert? The episode features a deepfake Trump naked in the desert, features Trump having a tiny penis, which is shown a few times, shows Trump being in bed with Satan. And Satan himself calls him out for being on the Epstein list. And the episode has repeated jabs at the corporate cowarding and the media manipulation. And it went in the air hours after the Paramount deal was announced. And this timing is absolutely brilliant. It's a brilliant move from the creators of South Park. You know, sometimes they say that this is fuck you money. Fuck you money is, I don't know, the Scorpions have been playing in Greece for 20 years now, every summer. Every time they say it's the last time they play, and yet they would come again. The last tour of Justin Timberlake, or he cannot even sing, it's just fuck you money. They don't want to do it, they just do it for the money. And this is a perfect one from South Park, signing the deal and managing to throw out an episode that puts everyone on the spot and ridicules the company they just signed itself. Of course, Trump put a White House statement to say that South Park is a failed show and no one watches it, and he was so annoyed at this. And I like it. I like that someone is finally taking a stance, and I like that the one taking a stance so blatantly, so raw, so unfiltered, is a show that lives in my heart since the early days of teenagehood and adulthood. So thank you, South Park. Thank you, South Park, for having been there for me when I was a stupid teenager, pointing out the stupidity in the world. And thank you for still being able to do it 30 years later. I don't know if Paramount will try to find a way to cancel you or not. All I know is that you delivered an actual brave blow in this theater that makes no sense, that the US politics and news is just sucking up. It made me remember the time when I was initiated to South Park, the time of MTV and Jackass and Bam Margera and Counter-Strike 1.6, it brought me the same feeling of how a show is just showing a big middle finger. So this is what went down. Now, if you want to see that episode, the best way to do it is to sign up for Paramount. They give you 1 week free cancellation. Sign up, episode 1 of season 27 of South Park, and then go ahead and cancel your subscription and call it a day. I'll wrap it up here and I'll give you a last one that I really like. The light piece of news from the internet. Japan is transforming old phone booths. And what are they doing with them? Imagine an old phone booth. But could you do it? Maybe you make it a mini public library for renting books or some sort of art installation. But no. Japan is making old phone booths into working aquariums. So they fill them up with water and they put goldfish in them. So this has now taken over the streets in Osaka and it looks very bizarre. It looks very surreal. Looking at an old phone booth and inside is just goldfish. The phone is still there, by the way. Now that's a fun one to do. And this has been this week's episode. I know it was a bit maybe less energized than usual, but I'm out of town recording in this laptop hidden in a child's room in the place that we are being hosted, surrounded by plastic dolls, fairies, a lava lamp, kudos for that, cool kid, colorful wigs, and tons of toys. If anyone saw me sitting in that tiny desk, in this tiny chair, in this child's room, they would probably think that something is wrong with me, and maybe something is wrong with me, but that's a topic for another time. Thank you very much for tuning in. I will record every week from now until eternity, come rain or come shine. But rain, please, seriously, just go away. What have we done to you? It's summer. Let us enjoy a little bit. Thank you very much. Sincerely, Central Northern Europe. All right. Until next week. Ciao. Ciao.